Okay. The way these scales work, I know you wanted me to explain the Hungarian Miner to you, but there's a little more to it than just using that one scale as a color. These artists don't actually use just that scale. You'll find tons of videos on YouTube where people are talking about the Hungarian minor scale. But when you hear it used in a song, it's more of a flavor within the minor scale in general. Okay, really what these scale patterns are patterns that you can overlay over top of each other, telling you how to organize the notes within your chromatic scale. Just like with the major scales, where I would use a parallel approach to shift the notes around within the major scale and sharp the fourth to make Lydian, or flat the seventh to make Mixolydian. We do the same thing from the point of view of the minor. Okay, so most of our organization in Western music comes from the major scale, which if you derive your intervals from your chromatic scale, you wind up with your root, your major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and then your octave, and then your major nine. Well, we can take that same scale and we can flat our third note, our sixth note, and our seventh note to come up with our natural minor. Okay, well now we have a whole new flavor of scales, a whole new world of different types of scales based off of that minor scale. Okay, so let's say we take our minor scale. Let's say we do it in E. And I always play them up to the 9 because it fits more with the 3-note per string pattern, and it just makes more sense when you're starting to play with chord tones. The scale just sounds better played to the 9 rather than just to the root. Some of your patterns, like your blues and your pentatonic, will generally only go to the root because you're missing the 9. So let's start from our minor scale. Okay. What we want to do to that is look at our scales that are contained within that. The first one and easiest one that we all usually learn is our minor pentatonic. Okay, so for that we'll leave out our second note and our sixth note, and we wind up with okay. Well, the next one we learn after that is generally our blues scale, which has our tritone contained in it. And then from there, depending on the style of music we play, we might go with something like the Dorian Scale, which we put a sharp 6 in. But usually with the types of heavier music that you're talking about playing that I know you're interested in, we'll usually bypass that and go on to something like, say, the harmonic minor. Well, the only difference between our natural minor and harmonic minor is we sharp our 7th note again, put a major 7 in there. So that would be more like. Okay. Well, where can we go from there? Well, from there we can go to the Hungarian Miner, or what I like to think of as the heavy metal blues scale, because of the chromatic notes that fall in it. It's like we take our harmonic minor and we mix it up with the blues scale. We take our 3 chromatic notes that might be in the blues scale and we shift them up by 1 fret. But what I like to do is I like to look at the scale as keeping that 4th in there. So instead of playing our 1st, 2nd, minor 3rd, and then sharping our 4th, instead of doing that, what I like to do is I like to leave that 4th in there. And that gives me more flavors to play with. Okay? And once I do that, and then I add my minor 7 back in, I wind up with another set of chromatics right there. So therefore, I've got this entire big pattern, big minor scale pattern that contains my natural minor, my pentatonic minor, my blues minor, my harmonic minor, and the Hungarian Miner. This is a great scale for playing any kind of extreme metal. You look at these types of patterns and listen to them. Let's say you go back and look at some of the old death metal stuff like Morbid Angel, and you'll have guys coming up with riffs kind of Hungarian Miner. Okay, but if we add that A back in there, we can couple it back in with the blues scale, which will give us kind of a little bit more of a. I'll let you decide on the flavor, but okay. So you see these scales, they don't work independently. They're all part of basically one big pattern. Really, when you think about it, if the goal of learning music or the guitar is to learn your chromatic scale and learn how to use all of your intervals to achieve whatever sound you're looking for independently. Okay, so if I were going to play out of these scales, depending on the chords that I was playing over with, which we can do that in another lesson in the future and work on the chord theory. Right now, you see these scale patterns. You have and then our harmonics. First, I'll play our natural minor, and then I'll go into our harmonic and double harmonic or Hungarian minor. Hungarian. And then or you can use to get used to those different sounds. You could come back to your root in between each one. But when it comes down to it, it's all one big scale pattern that looks like this. And that's generally what we're working with when we start writing songs, whether it's riffs or just coming up with solos.